The Galactic Confederacy had always been careful when it came to humans. Even though Earth was relatively new to the stars, stories spread quickly, rumors whispered in council chambers, hushed tales traded by traders and mercenaries alike. Humans were dangerous. They came from a death world of crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, and predators with teeth like knives. Their resilience was unnatural, their endurance legendary, and their willpower terrifying. Most species learned to tread carefully when dealing with them. But the Confederacy had once broken its own rules. Years earlier, a survey ship stumbled upon a derelict human vessel. It was torn apart by micrometeorite impacts, drifting between stars, its distress beacon weak and failing. Inside, only one crewman still clung to life. Barely. By strict Confederacy law, they should have left him. Interference with Death World species was considered too risky. But Captain Thalrek, against all protocols, brought the human aboard. Their medics worked tirelessly, unsure if the alien body before them could even survive their techniques. Against all odds he lived. That human's name was Commander Elias Ward. He returned to Earth carrying a story that spread like fire in the hearts of his people. They saved me when they had no reason to. They chose mercy over fear. Humanity never forgot. And Elias, he never stopped reminding them. Years later, the Confederacy faced its darkest hour. The Dravari swarm had come. Insectoid war hosts without mercy, without reason, their fleets blotted out suns and their armies consumed planets whole. No negotiation, no treaties, no quarter. Confederacy defenses crumbled before them. Planet Helior was next. Its skies burned red as Dravari carriers unleashed wave after wave of assault pods. Cities fell, screaming into fire. The Confederacy High Council pleaded for allies. None came. "They will not come," whispered Chancellor Vera, standing in the ruins of Helior's defense chamber. "The galaxy has left us to die." But then, the stars themselves trembled. From hyperspace ruptures, ships emerged, hundreds at first, then thousands. Vast, angular, black-hulled warships bristling with cannons and strange energy fields. Their formation was precise, predatory, terrifying. The defenders on Helior braced, certain this was another enemy fleet. But then a voice thundered across every channel, translated into every tongue. "This is the United Terran Fleet. You saved one of ours. Now we save all of yours." The human fleet moved like no other. Where Confederacy ships had faltered, the Terran Armada cut through the swarm with surgical brutality. Their railguns spat slugs at a fraction of light speed, tearing Dravari warships apart. Their carriers released fighters that moved like shadows, weaving destruction across enemy lines. And then there were the dreadnoughts, massive floating fortresses that unleashed beams so powerful entire Dravari cruisers disintegrated in seconds. Chancellor Vera stood on Helior's command balcony, watching in disbelief as the invincible swarm broke. For the first time the Dravari fell back. "Who are they?" whispered one of her aides. Vera's voice trembled, not with fear but awe. "Humans." On the bridge of the Terran flagship Indomitable, Admiral Elias Ward stood tall. His scarred face was calm, but his voice carried steel. "Target their hive carriers. Break the spine and the rest will scatter. No mercy, remember what they've done to these people." His officers obeyed with grim efficiency. Elias had never forgotten lying half dead on a Confederacy ship, an alien hand reaching out to save him. The kindness of strangers had given him life. Today humanity would return that gift 1,000-fold. The battle raged for hours. Confederacy survivors joined the humans, rallying behind their impossible strength. For the first time in generations, hope flared across Helior. And when the last Dravari carrier detonated in orbit, the skies cleared. Humanity had delivered victory. That night, as the fires of war still smoldered, Admiral Ward addressed the Confederacy leaders. His words echoed not as a demand, not as a threat, but as a promise. "You saved one human. You could have turned away but you didn't. We never forgot. Humanity repays its debts, with interest. We came here not for conquest, not for politics, but because gratitude binds us stronger than fear. The galaxy will remember what happened here today." Chancellor Vera's eyes burned with emotion. She bowed her head, something no Confederacy leader had done for centuries. "You have saved more than a world today, Admiral. You have saved hope itself." News of the battle spread across the stars like wildfire. Races that had feared the Dravari now whispered a new name with reverence and dread: humanity. They were no longer the newcomers, the mysterious predators from a death world. They were saviors and destroyers. And though the galaxy trembled at their power, one truth became clear. Humanity was not to be feared because of their strength. They were to be feared because of their loyalty. Because once you earned their gratitude, nothing in the universe could stand against them. The Confederacy had saved one man. Humanity had saved a world. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The battlefield was a charnel ground. Shattered towers leaned like broken teeth across the skyline of Kairos, the homeworld of the Veari, a proud but fragile species whose cities once gleamed with crystal spires and silver domes. Now, smoke smothered their skies. The enemy, the Zorth Dominion, descended on them like wolves. For 3 long months, the Veari had resisted. Alone. The Galactic Council had turned away. Too costly, they said. Their world is already lost, others declared. Promises of unity crumbled into silence when warships appeared in orbit. The Veari fought with desperation, but their defenses cracked. On the 79th day, the Dominion fleet unleashed its final wave. Kairos would fall. But in the darkest hour, as explosions rippled across the planetary shields, the Veari remembered something almost forgotten, an act of mercy from years past. It had happened in obscurity. A crash, a single Terran exploration pod torn apart by debris in an asteroid field. When Veari patrols found it, they discovered a dying human inside. Most species feared contact with humans, but a medic named Cyril defied his commander's orders. He treated the alien's wounds with trembling hands, poured their scarce medicine into its strange body, and stayed awake for 3 nights to stabilize it. The human lived. He spoke little of his past, but when the rescue craft from Earth finally arrived, he clasped Cyril's hands with tears in his eyes. "I won't forget," he promised. "And neither will my people." That human was Daniel Reyes. Decades passed. Cyril grew older, his story fading into rumor. The council mocked him for his naivete, risking our resources on a deathworlder? Madness. Even his own people treated it as a quaint tale. The kindness was forgotten. But not by Daniel Reyes. When the Zorth Dominion invaded Kairos, Daniel had long since become Admiral Reyes of the United Terran Navy. And when desperate transmissions from the Veari slipped through council blockades, he heard them. He recognized the voice of Cyril among the pleas. Daniel stood before the Terran High Command. "They saved one of us. No one else will help them. We will." Some argued it was folly. Humanity had its own borders to defend. The Veari had no riches, no strategic worlds, no armies to repay the debt. But Admiral Reyes silenced them with words that burned into the records of history. "We do not measure debts in coin. We measure them in lives." The Dominion fleet never expected opposition. Their warships loomed over Kairos, preparing the final bombardment. Their commanders laughed at the idea of rescue. Then the stars ripped open. The Terran fleet emerged, 1,000 strong, sleek destroyers, colossal carriers, and dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything the Dominion had seen before. Their engines roared with the power of antimatter drives. Their weapons shimmered with the fury of a death world forged into steel. On the planet below, the Veari raised their eyes. Hope, dead for months, ignited anew. The Terrans spoke, their broadcast cutting across enemy and ally frequencies alike. "This is the United Terran Navy. You saved one human. Today we return the kindness." The Dominion laughed at first. A death world fleet? Their admiral scoffed. Crush them. But laughter turned to horror when the first Terran volley fired. Kinetic rounds screamed through the void at near-light speed, tearing Dominion cruisers in half before they could maneuver. Terran bombers slipped through shields with impossible agility, planting warheads deep into enemy hulls. Railgun fire hammered carriers until they erupted like suns. And then came the dreadnought Iron Resolve. With a single shot, it unleashed a lance of white plasma that burned straight through the Dominion flagship, silencing its admiral mid-command. The battle shifted in minutes. Where the Council had failed, humanity shattered the Dominion line. On the surface of Kairos, Cyril watched from a refugee shelter as the sky bloomed with fire. Tears welled in his eyes. He whispered words he thought would never be spoken again. They remembered. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of his flagship, eyes fixed on the swirling chaos. The Dominion fleet scrambled, desperate to regroup. "Press the attack," he ordered. "Make them understand, they will never threaten this world again." His fleet surged forward. Terran warships fought with a unity and ferocity the galaxy had never witnessed. Every maneuver was ruthless, every strike decisive. By the time the last Dominion ship limped into retreat, half their fleet was gone. The Veari had been saved. When the smoke cleared, the survivors gathered in the council chamber of Kairos. Cyril, now an elder, was brought forward to meet the man who had come across the stars. Daniel Reyes removed his helmet, silver hair falling loose, his face worn from years of command. Yet his eyes lit with recognition. "Cyril," he said softly as though the decades had never passed. "You pulled me from death when no one else would. Today humanity repaid the debt." Cyril's voice broke. "We thought the galaxy had abandoned us. But you?" Reyes shook his head. "The galaxy may forget. Humans do not." Word of the Terran intervention spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, races whispered in awe and fear. Humanity had waged war not for conquest, not for resources but for gratitude. The Dominion licked its wounds, swearing vengeance, but their defeat had already shifted the balance of power. The Council, humiliated by their refusal to aid, now faced a terrifying truth. The humans did not fight for politics, they fought for principle. And that made them unstoppable. For the Veari, their world was scarred but alive. Cities could be rebuilt, families restored, hope rekindled. All because, once upon a time, one of their own had chosen compassion over fear. In the quiet after the war, Admiral Reyes walked the rebuilt streets of Kairos. Children laughed, chasing him with flowers. To them he was not a warlord or admiral. He was the proof that kindness mattered. When a journalist asked him why humanity had come, his answer was simple and it echoed across the stars. Because one life matters. And if you save one of ours, you save us all. The crash was violent. A Terran research vessel, Endeavour, had been mapping an uncharted sector when a gravitational anomaly ripped it apart. Escape pods scattered like sparks across the void, some crushed instantly, others drifting into silence. One pod streaked through the atmosphere of Ilyara, a quiet world on the galactic edge. It burned across their skies before slamming into a forest outside the village of Kareth. The people of Ilyara, simple agrarians with modest technology, rushed to the wreckage. They expected to find debris. Instead they found a child. A human child. Bruised, frightened but alive. The villagers could have left him. Their laws forbade involvement with off-world anomalies. But the elder Yavrin looked at the boy, his terrified eyes, his trembling hands, and made a choice. "We will keep him safe." They named him Aaron, though his real name was already known. Michael Hale, age 8. Years passed. Michael grew among the Ilyari. He learned their language, their songs, their games. He worked their fields, listened to their stories, and became one of them. They never treated him as an outsider. When Terran rescue craft finally came, Michael wept as he said goodbye. Elder Yavrin knelt and pressed her forehead to his. "Promise us, child. Do not forget us." Through tears he swore it, "I'll come back. Someday I'll come back." Michael returned to Earth. Time moved on, but he never let go of Ilyara. That kindness, that warmth, the love of strangers who had risked everything to protect a lost child, it lived in his heart. He studied, trained, rose through the ranks of Earth's defense forces. By 40 he was Admiral Michael Hale, commander of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. His name carried weight, his fleet carried fear, but in his heart, he was still the boy who had been saved by Ilyari kindness. And then the message came. Ilyara was burning. The Vorkal marauders, an empire of raiders and slavers, had descended on the peaceful world. Their ships blotted out the sun. Villages burned, cities toppled, and millions were taken as slaves. The Galactic Council did nothing. Ilyara had no strategic value, no influence, no voice. Michael stood in silence as the report played in his war chamber. Images of fire, chains, screams. He recognized the spires of Kareth, the very village that had once saved him. His voice broke when he spoke. "No one else will come for them." Pause. Then his tone hardened into iron. "But we will." The Terran fleet launched with thunder. Hundreds of warships surged from orbit, their engines glowing like newborn stars. Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, an entire armada, moving with singular purpose. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humanity had no treaty, no obligation, no gain in this war. Yet they moved with unstoppable resolve. When the fleet emerged over Ilyara, the Vorkal jeered. "Another weak world sends defenders?" Their warlord sneered. "Crush them." But these were not defenders. These were humans. The battle was not a clash, it was annihilation. Terran carriers unleashed squadrons of fighters that danced like shadows, tearing through Vorkal formations. Railguns thundered, their slugs ripping warships apart. Plasma lances burned cruisers into molten wreckage. And at the center of it all, Admiral Hale's flagship, the Resolute, cut through enemy lines like a wolf among sheep. Every shot was vengeance, every maneuver a promise fulfilled. From the planet's surface, the Ilyari gazed upward, awestruck. The skies that had burned with chains now burned with salvation. A broadcast filled the air, translated into every tongue. This is the United Terran Navy. You saved one of ours. Today we save your world. The Vorkal fought savagely, but savagery meant nothing against precision and wrath. Their fleet collapsed within hours. Survivors fled into the void, leaving wreckage and silence behind. When the last Marauder ship was destroyed, Admiral Hale gave a single order: begin planetary relief. Dropships poured from orbit carrying supplies, medics and soldiers. Not to conquer, not to occupy, but to protect. For the first time in months the Ilyari breathed freely. Elder Yavrin, now aged and frail, was brought before the Admiral. She could barely walk, yet when she saw him step down from his flagship, clad in Terran uniform, her eyes filled with recognition. "Michael," she whispered. He knelt, just as he had as a boy, pressing his forehead to hers. His voice trembled. "I kept my promise. I came back." Tears streamed down her face. "You came not as a child, but as a savior." The days that followed were filled with rebuilding. Terran engineers reinforced Ilyari cities. Terran soldiers stood guard against slavers. And Terran medics healed the wounded. Humanity did not ask for tribute, nor territory, nor thanks. They asked only that Ilyara live. To the galaxy it was unthinkable. No empire fought without profit. No fleet moved without politics. Yet the Terrans had bled and burned for gratitude alone. Whispers spread: humans are dangerous not because of their weapons but because of their loyalty. In a speech broadcast across the Confederacy, Admiral Hale stood before the council, the stars of Ilyara behind him. "You call them a backwater. You say their world has no worth. But they saved one child when no one else would. That kindness was worth more than all your treaties, all your credits, all your politics. Humanity remembers. And if you threaten them again you will find out just how much." The chamber fell silent. No one dared challenge him. Years later, children of Ilyara would tell the story of the day the sky caught fire. They spoke of ships black as night, of thunder that shattered their oppressors, of humans who came not as conquerors but as guardians. And in their tales, one truth always rang clear. They had saved a boy. So humanity saved a world.